Welcome everyone to the House Committee on Judiciary and Hawaiian Affairs here in room 325 at the State Capitol. It's Thursday, February 23rd, 2 p.m. My name is David Tarnas. I'm chair of the committee, and Vice Chair Greg Takayama is here, and member Representative Kanani Souza and Sam Kong. Welcome all testifiers here in person and those on Zoom. Today, if you're testifying, I would request you keep your testimony to just a couple of minutes, 2 minutes, and then I'll ask you to summarize, just so we can get through all the testimony and have the opportunity to ask questions and deliberate. If you're testifying via Zoom, please keep muted and your camera off until I call you, and then go ahead and unmute yourself, turn your camera on, give your testimony, and then turn your camera off and mute yourself. That way we don't get any feedback. And please, if you're on Zoom, don't use any trademark or copyrighted images behind you, because then we get in trouble. We can't broadcast it on YouTube. They bump us right off of it. It's not good. So please help us by avoiding that. All testifiers, I would ask that you remain civil and don't use any profanity, and we're all working this job together, so please, let's work as allies. It's okay to disagree, but please don't be disagreeable, and I will endeavor to do the same. If those who are online get bumped off for any reason because you lose your internet connection, just don't panic, please rejoin, and then I'll try to fit you in to give testimony when you return. If for some reason power goes off in the Capitol and we have to reschedule, we'll post notice so you'll know when we're meeting again and doing decision making. Okay? So let's go ahead and get started. First up on the agenda, House Bill 727. This is relating to campaign funds, limits the permitted use of campaign funds to only those purposes that are directly related to the campaigns of candidates. This bill and the following 5, so the first 6 bills on the agenda, are the remaining bills that were proposed by the Commission to Improve Standards of Conduct, led by the inimitable Judge Dan Foley, who has been a steadfast testifier on all of these, and I appreciate his input on this. As I mentioned yesterday, we heard all the bills that were proposed by the Ethics Commission and the Campaign Spending Commission, and some of those were identical because they had members on the Commission to Improve Standards of Conduct and brought their bills for consideration by that commission. So what you might find today is that I'll refer to another House bill that we've already heard that is the same bill. And so if we decide to defer one of these Commission to Improve Standards of Conduct bills as on the agenda, I would explain that it's because we've already passed the same bill in a previous committee hearing in a different bill. So it's not that we don't like this bill, it's just that we've already moved it out in another bill. So with that explanation, I hope you're not more confused, but let's go ahead and get started. So first up for House Bill 727, we have Judge Dan Foley. Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, and thank you so much for hearing every commission bill, even those that have companion bills through the Ethics Commission, Campaign Spending Commission. It's deeply appreciated, and I think it serves a public purpose. I also want to thank the committee and the House for its new rules of procedure and administrative manual, which adopts and incorporates many of the Commission's recommendations from its proposals concerning a Citizens' Bill of Rights, conflict of interest, and nepotism. And I think it moves us forward in terms of greater transparency, accountability, and public trust. So my gratitude. I have submitted written testimony in support of 727. The campaign funds just be used for campaigns and campaign-related activities, and I will be available if there are any questions.
Thank you very much, sir, and thank you for your kind words commenting on our rules package and the administrative manual. incorporating many of the suggestions from the Commission to improve standards of conduct. Next, we have testimony and support from Gary Kam, Campaign Spending Commission. Please proceed.
Good afternoon, Chair Tarnas, Vice Chair Takayama, members of the committee. This bill differs slightly from HB 94, which was passed out of this committee February 1st. This bill contains more, this bill is basically an attempt to limit the expenditures that are allowed to those that are more related to the campaign. The commission's bill didn't go as far as this one. Also, this one only has a single referral, so this one would probably move faster. We're still, HB 94 is still waiting to get a hearing in finance. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, we have testimony and support from Janet Mason, League of Women Voters, Lynn Matasau, and Johnny May Perry. Is there anyone else here wishing to testify on House Bill 727? If not, questions, members? Nope. Seeing none, we'll move on. Thank you. House Bill 729, relating to candidate committee and non-candidate committee organizational reports, requires the Campaign Spending Commission to publish on its website the names of candidate committees and non-candidate committees who fail to properly file an organizational report. Just to let everyone know, we heard the same bill, House Bill 93, 3 weeks ago, February 1st, and it is now in the Senate. So first up, we have Judge Foley. Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I've submitted written testimony in support of this bill, as I did with House Bill 93, and will remain available for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, we have testimony and support from Gary Kam, Campaign Spending Commission. Please proceed.
Good afternoon again, Chair Tarnas, Vice Chair Takayama, and members of the committee. I will stand on our brief written testimony in support of this measure. Thank you.
Thank you. And we have testimony and support from two individuals, Lynn Matasau and Johnny May Perry. Anybody else wishing to testify on House Bill 729? Seeing none, questions, members? Nope. We'll move on. Thanks very much. And it's not that we're not interested in asking questions, but we asked them all these questions on the earlier bill, so that's why we're not asking questions now, so if you're wondering. House Bill 730, relating to campaign spending cash contributions. It limits the amount of cash contributions a candidate committee, or non-candidate committee can accept in the aggregate in an election period to $100. Requires receipts for each contribution. I'm emphasizing cash contribution. So this just limits the amount of cash contributions that these committees can accept to $100 for an entire election period, and requires providing receipt for each of these contributions. First up, and that we actually heard House Bill 99, Campaign Spending Commission bill, same bill, and it is now in the Senate, crossed over. First up, testifying in support of House Bill 730 is Judge Dan Foley. Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the committee have submitted written testimony in support of this bill, as well as House Bill 99. I would also like to add that maybe some of the questions don't need to be asked, because my commission spent 9 months working on this, 13 public hearings, received testimony, published YouTubes, and submitted a 400-page report. And I know you and the other committee members have reviewed all of that. Thank you very much.
Good point, sir. I appreciate that, and that is absolutely true. Next, we have testimony and support from Gary Kam, Campaign Spending Commission. Please proceed.
Good afternoon again, Chair Tarnas, Vice Chair Takayama, members of the committee. Again, I will stand on our brief written testimony in support of this measure. Thank you.
Thank you. And we have received written testimony and support from 3 individuals, Leimomi Khan, Lynn Matasau, and Johnny May Perry. Is there anyone else here wishing to testify on House Bill 730? Seeing none, questions, members? Nope, we'll move on. Thanks very much. Next, we have House Bill 731, relating to Campaign Spending Commission orders. It provides that a person waives the right to a contested case hearing if the person fails to request a contested case hearing within 20 days of receipt of the Commission's preliminary determination. Provides that a final order of the Commission may be filed in the Circuit Court of the First Circuit for confirmation as a civil judgment, enforceable and collectible as any other judgment issued in the Circuit Courts. For everyone's information, we heard the same bill, House Bill 91, as part of the Campaign Spending Commission package of bills. We passed it out 3 weeks ago, and it is now in the Senate for their consideration. So, House Bill 731, first up, we have Judge Foley, Commission to Improve Standards of Conduct. Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've submitted written testimony in support of this bill as well as House Bill 91. Many of the Campaign Spending Commission bills that we worked on in our commission with them seem to be relatively minor to maybe the outside observer, but we consider them all extremely important in allowing the Campaign Spending Commission to be more efficient and effective in carrying out its very important mandate. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Next, we have testimony with comments from the Attorney General. Welcome. Please proceed.
Good afternoon, Chair Tarnas, Vice Chair Takayama, members of the committee. I'm Deputy Attorney General Steve Bumanlag. The department has provided written comments. And just to summarize, our department enforces administrative orders for the Campaign Spending Commission, and currently the only way is to obtain contempt orders and subsequently bench warrants in circuit court. The bill would allow us to collect fines via a civil judgment. I'm available to answer any questions.
Thanks for that explanation. Appreciate it. Next, we have testimony in support from Gary Kam, Campaign Spending Commission. Please proceed.
Good afternoon, Chair Tarnas, Vice Chair Takayama, members of the committee. I will stand on our brief written testimony in support of this measure. Thank you.
Thank you. And we have testimony in support from Lynn Matasau. Is there anyone else here wishing to testify on House Bill 731? Seeing none, questions, members? Nope. We'll move on to the next bill, House Bill 732, relating to complaints alleging violations of campaign spending laws. It allows the Campaign Spending Commission to presume a violation of campaign spending laws has occurred if a respondent fails to explain or otherwise respond to a complaint alleging a campaign spending violation. For everyone's information, we heard a similar bill, House Bill 98, which we deferred because we had some due process concerns. And we can learn more about that as we hear our testimony on 732. First up, testimony and support from Judge Dan Foley. Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I submitted written testimony. We hope that Commission bill addresses the concern that your committee rightfully had with House Bill 98. The failure to respond would be an admission. Our bill only makes it a presumption of a violation, and any presumption, of course, is rebuttable. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Next, we have testimony in support from Gary Kam, Campaign Spending Commission. Please proceed.
Good afternoon again, Chair Tarnas, Vice Chair Takayama, and members of the committee. We submitted testimony in support of this bill. We request that the Commission pass this bill out. And just to let the committee know that the companion bill, we corrected the companion bill to match this bill. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And we have testimony in support from two individuals, Lynn Matasau and Johnny May Perry. Is there anyone else here wishing to testify on House Bill 732? Seeing none, any questions, members? Nope, we'll move on. Thank you. And the final bill from the Commission to Improve Standards of Conduct, House Bill 733, relating to violations of campaign finance laws. It increases the amount of the fine for campaign spending law violations that may be assessed, and it allows the Campaign Spending Commission to order that payment of a fine assessed be paid from the personal funds of an officer of the non-candidate committee. We heard the very similar, if not the same bill, House Bill 92, 3 weeks ago, and that is currently in finance. And you also see also Senate Bill 197, which passed Senate Judiciary. So there's a number of other measures that are the same as this, or very similar, that are moving both in the House and Senate. So with that in mind, House Bill 733, first up, testimony and support from Judge Dan Foley. Please proceed, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the committee, I submitted testimony in support of House Bill 92. I prefer this one because it has a single referral to your committee. We had a lot of discussion in the commission over the 9 months about super PACs, and non-candidate committees are super PACs, or can be super PACs. We are limited in what we can do in regulating super PACs because of the United States Supreme Court decision in Citizens United. And they have had a controversial history here and across the country. But what we can do is increase fines for campaign violations and make individual officers of these super PACs personally liable. And that's what this bill intends to do. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Next, we have testimony and support from Gary Kam, Campaign Spending Commission.
Good afternoon, Chair Tarnas, Vice Chair Takayama, and members of the committee. I will stand on our brief written testimony in support of this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. And next, we have testimony and support from two individuals, Lynn Matasau and Johnny May Perry. Is there anyone else here wishing to testify in House Bill 733? If not, questions, members? No? I would just note for everybody that Senate Bill 197, which is the same bill, has passed the Senate Judiciary, and it's a single referral. So it's on its way to the floor in the Senate, and then after that over here. So keep that in mind. Okay, let's move on. House Bill 995, relating to important agricultural lands. It clarifies the decision-making process for the Land Use Commission adoption of county maps and designation of important agricultural lands. We have first up testimony and support from DBED. Welcome.
Hello, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. DBED, this is an admin bill, and we support it. So thank you. We'll stand on our testimony here to answer any questions.
Introduce yourself.
Oh, sorry, Chris Sadayasu, DBED Director.
There you go.
Thank you.
It's good for all of us to get to know you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, we have testimony and support from Hawaii Department of Agriculture. Next, we have testimony and support from the Office of Planning and Sustainable Development.
Good afternoon, Chair Tarnas, Vice Chair Takayama, members of the committee, Scott Glenn, Office of Planning and Sustainable Development. We submitted testimony in support and noted that we do prefer the original, which repeals what we think is a broken incentive that we think is addressed in the next bill on the agenda. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And testimony and support from Brian Miyamoto, Hawaii Farm Bureau, who told me he's stuck in finance, so he sends his greetings. And we have his written testimony. Anyone else wishing to testify in House Bill 995? If not, questions, members? I have a question for Mr. Glenn. Come on up, if you would. These two bills are sort of inextricably linked, this one and the following one. That they're both administration bills. Is there a reason why they're separated? Why they're not in the same bill? Because it's always perilous when you have linked bills because one might not make it and the other one does.
Sure, thank you, Chair. And I think the thinking when we were proposing these bills, and remember there was a transition at administration as well, was that they're trying to solve two different problems, and so having two vehicles for that. But I think they are linked in the sense that they both pertain to the same topic, and they're both pertaining to pretty much the same section of HRS.
Okay. Would you have any objection if the committee decides to put the material in the next bill into this bill?
I think we'd be amenable to that. I understand that would also address some of the concerns that were raised in other testimony.
Yeah. Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Chair.
Any other questions, members? If not, let's move on. House Bill 996, which is the bill that I was referring to as linked to this one, to the previous one, relating to important agricultural lands, same title. This 996 repeals the provision for farm dwelling and farm employee housing on important agricultural lands and adopts a new provision for farm cluster housing as an incentive for the designation of lands as important agricultural lands pursuant to Chapter 205. On this measure, we have testimony in support from Director Sariasu. Welcome, please proceed.
Thank you, sir. Chris Sariasu, DBED Director, and Chair Tarnas, Vice Chair Takayama, members of the committee. We support this bill and stand on our testimony, and here to answer any questions.
Great, thank you. Next, we have testimony in support from Hawaii Department of Agriculture. And testimony in support from Office of Planning and Sustainable Development. Mr. Glenn, please proceed.
Thank you, Chair. As noted on the previous bill, we also support this one, and we'd also be amenable if the committee chose to merge them.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. And testimony in support from the Hawaii Farm Bureau, Brian Miyamoto. Is there anyone else here wishing to testify on House Bill 996? If not, questions, members? Maybe I have a question for Director Sariasu. Same question to you, sir, that I had for Mr. Glenn. Would, since these two bills are so closely linked, and I think there's concern, practical concerns as a legislator, that sometimes when you have two linked bills and one doesn't make it, then it can cause unforeseen problems. So would you have any objection to us taking the material in 996 and putting it into 995?
No objections. Spoke with Scott Glenn and Mr. Orendenker and Mr. Derrickson as well with LEC, and so we're okay with that. Thank
Okay.
you.
Great, I was going to ask Scott too, so.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry for speaking for him.
No, it's all right. Scott Derrickson, did you have any comments on, you want to, come on up. This is Scott Derrickson with the Land Use Commission, so he gets to deal with all these IAL things.
Yeah, aloha.
And so,
Committee members.
certainly, thank you for being here and for questions. I know you didn't, you're very much involved with both of these bills. Do you have any objection if we were to take that language from 996 and put it into 995?
No, we don't, no, we wouldn't have any objections to putting the two pieces together
Okay.
into a single vehicle.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, great. And did you have any other comment you wanted to share with the committee?
Not unless you have any questions.
Nope.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Derrickson. Okay, any other questions, members? Seeing none, let's move on. House Bill 1091, relating to real property disclosures within shoreline areas, requires disclosure of all existing permitted and unpermitted shoreline erosion control structures on parcels of land adjacent to the shoreline prior to real estate transactions. First up, we have testimony from Department of Land and Natural Resources. Welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chair Tarnas, committee members. Michael Kane, on behalf of the Department of Land and Natural Resources. We stand on our testimony in strong support. We have made one recommendation, and that's that we would ask the committee to consider reinserting language that requires the disclosure of erosion rates. There were concerns from the Realtors Association that would create a burden on landowners and require them to do research, which we don't want them to do. we concur. We don't want landowners to do independent research. So we're recommending that we add language to state that these will be disclosed when they are publicly available. In essence, when you can go to the county website, click on the map, and get the answer. And I will be available for questions.
If you could explain to the committee other parts of your testimony, for which counties are such rates available on the respective county websites?
So thank you. Rates are available for Kauai, Maui, and Oahu, but they are not for the entire counties or every single shoreline. So we did link to the county websites, and you'll see that for Kauai, you can click on pretty much any part of the shoreline and see the rate. We understand the university is currently researching for the counties to establish erosion rates on other islands.
Great, thank you very much for that further explanation. And
Thank
thanks
you.
for being around for questions.
Mahalo.
Next, we have testimony and support from the State of Hawaii Division of Forestry and Wildlife, Leah Laramie. Actually, I think that's from the commission. the Climate Change Commission. Yeah. Testimony and support from them. Testimony and support from the Office of Planning and Sustainable Development. Mr. Glenn, please proceed.
Thank you, Chair. We submitted testimony in support. I just want to note that we said supports the intent of because we also concur with the recommendations from DLNR.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. We have testimony and support from Charles Fletcher, University of Hawaii, with a suggested amendment. Testimony from Matthew Gonzer, City and County of Honolulu, Office of Climate Change, Sustainability and Resiliency, in support with suggested amendment. Testimony and support from Lauren Blickley, Surfrider Foundation, and Lynn Matasau, and testimony with comments from Lindsay Garcia, Hawaii Realtors.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the committee. Apologies for our late testimony. My name is Lindsay Garcia from the Hawaii Association of Realtors. We do have comments with suggested amendments. We appreciate and support the amendments that were made in the previous committee, removing the requirements for disclosure of erosion rates since, as was noted, sellers do not have access to the information and the county information currently available does not include the Big Island. But upon further review, we have also determined that a seller may not have knowledge of all permitted and unpermitted structures on state land adjacent to their property as well. And as such, if you are inclined to pass this measure, would respectfully request striking the or on state land adjacent to the parcel. Additionally, we would also respectfully request an effective date of November 1st to allow our organization time to update our seller's real property disclosure statement and to educate our members on any required changes. Our organization provides standard forms for the entire industry to utilize, and November is the next scheduled update for our standard forms. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Anyone else here wishing to testify on House Bill 1091? If not, questions, members? I have a question for Mr. Kane. The realtors are asking to delete the words "or on state land adjacent to the parcel." And just for everyone's information, let me just read the whole thing. When residential real property lies adjacent to the shoreline, the seller shall disclose all permitted and unpermitted erosion control structures on the parcel or on state land adjacent to the parcel, expiration dates of any permitted structures, any notices of alleged violations, and any fines for expired permits or unpermitted structures. So the realtors would like to remove "or on state land adjacent to the parcel." Could you explain why you wanted to have that language in there?
One of the major issues we are dealing with is there are landowners throughout the state, but particularly on the North Shore of Oahu, who are building these sandbag walls on state land fronting their property. So we're not talking about something small and hard to see. We are talking about very large structures that occupy the state beach. And I think it would neuter the bill if we removed that requirement. We have landowners regularly buying property who write to us and tell us they didn't notice that 15-foot tall, 10-foot wide sandbag burrito system fronting their property. And it would help our enforcement if we can say, no, this was disclosed. And we believe it would limit landowners from building without authorization on state property and then selling the property before we can bring an enforcement case to our board.
You use the word fronting their property. Would it be appropriate to add words in here, "or on state land adjacent and fronting the parcel"? Because think about having state land adjacent, so it could be an entire parcel of state land that is next door.
So our primary concern are the structures that are on the Mackay side, so or on the shoreline side. So if we could work on language, I don't know if fronting encompasses the coastal side or not, but.
Well, what would it be? What would you suggest? Because I would like to address this issue.
Yeah, I agree.
Because I think it's valid.
Do you mind if I grab the bill?
Yep, get the bill. And I think because if there is a state parcel that is next door, then it would be triggered by this.
Yeah, and
And
you're
that's what we
absolutely,
don't
you're
wanna do
absolutely
there.
correct. So I would like to address it now.
So it's page 4, lines 6 and
All
7.
right, so it reads, "On the parcel or on state land adjacent to the parcel." So if we say, "On state land seaward of the parcel,"
Okay,
or seaward and adjacent,
seaward and adjacent.
because if it's 3 properties back, we wouldn't expect them to have that knowledge. So, and, so that would be,
Seaward,
Line
okay,
7.
add seaward end
And.
to that sentence. Okay,
Correct.
so it would read, or on state land seaward and adjacent to the parcel.
correct, thank you.
Okay, thank you for helping us figure that out. Questions, members? Yes, please.
Don't move.
Representative Souza, please
Thank you,
proceed.
Chair. So when I was in the Waterland Committee, I had questioned Don Chang about the language, because I brought this to her attention that I didn't like the language that says, or on state land adjacent to the parcel, because similar reasons that Chair Tarnish just mentioned, because the assumption also is that the landowner will basically know that these structures are there. So I understand your scenario, because obviously if they're building the unpermitted or permitted structure, then they know that it's there adjacent to their property. But don't you think that there's going to be some unintended consequences, and based on the fact that there might be something built there that the property owner, or the seller in this case, did not have any knowledge of?
I'm
Like, you know what I'm trying to say? Like,
visualize it
so
too.
what if the
So-
state actually had a permitted or unpermitted structure that is built adjacent to the seller's property that the seller does not have any knowledge of, or they can see it, but they don't own it, they weren't part of the building process? Why would they have to disclose
Thank you.
anything
I
that
agree.
is not theirs?
So,
You understand what I'm saying?
correct. If a person is buying a coastal property, they'll want to know if there's a seawall there or not. And there are many situations where we don't know how old a seawall is, or if the state built it, or if the Corps of Engineers built it, but that seawall does exist.
Correct.
So I think it would be important for a property buyer to know,
Oh, no, I
does the
think
seawall
it's-
exist or not?
Right.
So that wouldn't necessarily be a violation for us.
Well, I guess
But,
my
yeah.
question is that it's okay, the buyer should know, and the buyer
Yeah.
should do their due diligence regardless of what the seller discloses. That's their responsibility as a
Yeah.
buyer. But I do think that why would it be the seller's responsibility to disclose what is on state land when they don't own the state land?
If that structure is protecting their property from erosion, then
Right.
again, it would be.
I see what you're
I think I see
saying.
where you're going, but I
Yeah,
don't.
I think that my perspective is that there's an assumption that's being made, because there's going to be, I believe that there's going to be some victims in this situation where, because of the language, they're going to basically be penalized or sued for structures that they had no knowledge about, or, you know what I'm saying, like through the history of their property, maybe they were not sure about whether it's visible, whether it's deteriorated. Do you see what I'm saying? That's all. That's
Yeah,
that's
thank
it.
you.
Thank
I
you. Thank
do
you.
understand the point.
I just
I
wanted
think
to
it-
make the point, and maybe if I could also question Lindsay
course.
Garcia,
right.
if she could come up and further explain, maybe that'll help
Thank you.
the situation. Thank you so much. Okay, so just a question for you. So when we were in Waterland, maybe this is what it derived out of your testimony, but can you just explain that, is there any other time in these disclosure papers or statements where the seller would have to disclose things that are not on their property?
Not to my knowledge. I could double check our current
Okay.
form, but yeah, not for what's not on the property, I don't believe.
Right.
Yeah,
Because
and so-
technically, they don't have knowledge, or they're not supposed to have knowledge of things that are nearby or across the street or adjacent, correct?
Correct. It wouldn't be on their property, and so it wouldn't be the seller's responsibility to disclose. And you bring up basically the point that I was trying to
Right.
make. Obviously, in the situations that DLNR is bringing up, we understand where they're coming from, but there could be permitted and unpermitted structures on state land that the seller had no hand in no knowledge of, but then will then be penalized because they basically didn't know that on state land there were these structures when they tried to sell their property, and indicate they had no knowledge of it, and then find out later that those structures are there, and then they get blamed for it.
Right, thank you so much. Yeah, that
Thank
was
you.
the point from the whole water land thing, and so you guys actually put this in your testimony from that committee hearing. So thank you for doing that, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
And thank you also to Dielenar.
Thank you, Representative. Any other questions? If not, we'll move on. Thanks very much. Next, we have House Bill 1159 relating to climate change. Requires the Hawaii Community Development Authority to consider the impacts of climate change, sea level rise, and climate resilient development in the design and siting of buildings in the Kaka'ako and Kalailoa Community Development Districts. First up, we have testimony from Office of Planning and Sustainable Development.
Chair, we stand on our testimony and support. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have testimony and support from Charles Fletcher, University of Hawaii. Testimony and support from Hawaii Community Development Authority, Craig Nakamoto. And testimony and support from Melody Aduha, Environmental Caucus of the Democratic Party of Hawaii. Testimony in support from Arwin Revere, and testimony and support from Will Karen. Is there anyone else here wishing to testify on House Bill 1159? If not, questions, members? Seeing none, we'll move on. Thank you. House Bill 676 relating to district boundary amendments. This authorizes the appropriate county land use decision-making authority to determine district boundary amendments involving land areas over 15 acres, except lands that are designated as important agricultural land or lands where the soil is classified by the Land Study Bureau's detailed land classification as overall master productivity class A or B, if the county has adopted an ordinance that meets certain requirements. It's not in the summary, but just in the bill, it also says the county has to own the land for 99 years. First up, 676, we have testimony from HHFDC, Hawaii Housing Finance and Development Corporation. Welcome. Pleasure to see you. Floor is yours.
Thank you. Chair Tarnas, Vice Chair Takayama, members of the committee, Denise Seri Matsubara, HHFDC. This measure is very innovative. It affords the county with wonderful flexibility that they need to address the housing situation in their respective counties. So we strongly support this measure. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, we have testimony with comments from the Hawaii Department of Agriculture. Welcome. Please introduce yourself and proceed.
Good afternoon, Chair Tarnas and members of the committee. Matthew Loke, representing the Department of Agriculture. The department will stand on by its written testimony in offering comments for this measure. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have testimony with comments from the State Land Use Commission. Mr. Scott Derrickson. Welcome. Please proceed.
Aloha, Chair, Vice Chair, committee members, Scott Derrickson, Chief Planner, State Land Use Commission. We did offer comments in our late testimony. Apologies. But we do understand that you do have that in front of you.
Yes, we do.
To review. So we're here for answering any questions you might have.
Could you, since it did come in late, it is in the package that everyone has before them, but could you highlight the specific amendments that you're requesting?
Sure. We requested basically 2 amendments to add a couple sections that require the counties to utilize and go through a due process requirement similar to what the Land Use Commission currently does, governed by chapters 91 and 92. And also that they must incorporate requirements to consider the public trust doctrine, which stems from requirements laid out in the state constitution and further defined by state Supreme Court decisions. So
we're basically saying, if you're going to do it, you need to follow the same kind of due process requirements that the commission does now. And thank you, Chair, for identifying that this is not an open-ended district boundary amendment process for the counties. It's very limited and very targeted only when the county owns the land and holds on to it for at least 99 years. Because of that, we don't foresee that this has got a great deal of impact.
Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate that further explanation. We have testimony in opposition from Office of Hawaiian Affairs. Next, we have testimony in support from Lindsay Garcia, Hawaii Realtors. Welcome, please proceed.
Aloha again, Chair, Vice Chair, and members. My name is Lindsay Garcia from the Hawaii Association of Realtors, and will stand in support of this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. We have testimony with comments from Sierra Club of Hawaii, testimony in opposition from Kupuna for the Mo'opuna, testimony in opposition from Hawaii Alliance for Progressive Action, testimony with comments from the Grassroot Institute of Hawaii, testimony in support from BIA Hawaii, Stephanie Sakamoto, testimony in support from the Maui Chamber of Commerce, testimony in opposition from Ellen Sofio, David Robichaud, and Keani Rollins Fernandez. Is there anyone else here wishing to testify on House Bill 676? If not, questions, members? If not, we'll move on. Thank you. Next is House Bill 1097, relating to the Uniform Controlled Substances Act. This updates the Uniform Controlled Substances Act, Chapter 329, HRS, that's Hawaii Revised Statutes, to make it consistent with amendments in the Federal Controlled Substances Law as required by Section 329-11 Hawaii Revised Statutes. First up, we have testimony in support from the State of Hawaii Department of Public Safety. Welcome, Mr. Regula.
Good afternoon, Chair Tarnas, Vice Chair Takayama, and members of the committee. My name is Jared Redula. I'm the state's Narcotics Enforcement Chief. Chair, we're in support of this bill. This is your annual controlled substance update bill that we normally put to the legislature every single year. This is a good bill because it allows us to regulate really bad controlled substances that appear during the year, as well as allow our community to use good, brand new drugs that appear during the year. This year, however, I do wish to point out to the committee that in our testimony, we're offering an amendment. This is because a very astute member of the legislature contacted our office to point out that there was an issue in the original draft. The responsibility for creating that issue was mine alone. And I offer an amendment to repair the draft so that we can continue with the business of moving this along. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Redula, for your diligence. That helps, because most of us are not chemists, so we don't understand what all of these chemical names are. So thank you for doing that. Next, we have testimony in support from Michael Vincent, Department of Law Enforcement, and testimony in support from an individual, Johnny May Perry. Is there anyone else here wishing to testify on House Bill 1097? If not, questions, members? It's because we can't pronounce the chemical names. That's why we're not asking questions. But yeah, your testimony was very clear, and that helps us so that we can get it proper, we can get it correct. Okay, there being no questions on HB 1097, let's move on to the next measure. House Bill 167 relating to wages. It makes general contractors entering into or under contracts in the state for work on buildings, structures, and other private works liable for debt incurred by subcontractors for wages due to for wages due to claimants for performance of labor in the contract between the general contractor and owner. First up, we have testimony in support from the Department of Labor and Industrial Relations. Welcome, please introduce yourself and proceed.
Sorry. Oh, good afternoon, Chair Tarnas, Vice Chair Takayama. My name is Kristen Lee, and I'm appearing for the Department of Labor and Industrial Relations. The department stands on its testimony and support, offering a clarifying amendment to the definition of employer in 388-1 definitions. The department's also here for any questions, so thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, we have testimony in opposition from Tim Lyons, Subcontractors Association of Hawaii. Mr. Lyons, please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. The Subcontractors Association sees this bill as very problematic. There are, as you no doubt know, scores of laws and regulations regarding construction work and the affairs between general contractors and subcontractors, and typically under the theory that it's taxpayer money, and therefore we should all be careful as to how it is administered and paid out. This bill is for private work, not government work. That's a real intrusion, I think, into that sector. Prompt payment and retainage laws in the past were all regarding government work. I know our association and many others refrained from trying to expand that into private work, feeling that it was not government's domain to get involved in the affairs between the subs and the generals, unless they're doing something illegal, of course. However, that's something that we would certainly entertain after this bill. We'd also like to point out that under the bill, the general contractor also becomes responsible for the wages of subs to subs. So again, as an example, if you have an air conditioning subcontractor, he has a contract with the general contractor to perform certain duties. Then there's an insulation contractor to take care of that insulation. That's only a contract between the insulation contractor and the subcontractor. The general contractor may not know who that is or where it is, but yet he's going to be responsible for the wages of those individuals. We also think that considering the 15 items that we have included in our testimony that currently is information that the subcontractor must provide to the general, that it certainly should be sufficient information. And lastly, we just think that there's going to be some unintended consequences here. A project may have 19, 18, 19 different subcontractors on it from the general contractor, and there's no doubt that he will wait until he is absolutely sure that every employee of every sub has been paid properly before he releases that money. So if nothing else, we know it's going to add to the payment time between generals and subs, and for those reasons we oppose. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Lyons. Next, we have testimony with comments from the General Contractors Association of Hawaii. Mr. Sakuda, welcome. Please proceed.
Good afternoon, Chair Tarnas, Vice Chair Takayama, members of the committee. Ryan Sakuda on behalf of the General Contractors Association. We stand on our written testimony providing comments and are happy to answer any questions. Thanks.
Just because I like to hear you talk, could you summarize what your comments are?
So this measure has been introduced before in a previous session, I think it was 2019, and the proponents and the General Contractors Association have gone back and forth with various drafts in the spirit of compromise in the hopes to find something that we can tolerate. And this draft, I think, reflects what our general contractor members are saying that they can tolerate.
Okay. All right. Thanks for that explanation. Next, we have testimony and support from the Hawaii Regional Council of Carpenters. Next, we have testimony and support from Operating Engineers Local Union 3. Testimony and support from Hawaii Laborers and Employers Cooperation and Education Trust. Testimony and support from Pacific Resource Partnership. Welcome. Please introduce yourself and proceed.
Chris Delaney, Pacific Resource Partnership. Aloha, Chair Tarnas and Vice Chair Takayama. We are standing on our testimony in strong support of this measure. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next, we have testimony in opposition from the Associated Builders and Contractors Hawaii Chapter. And testimony in opposition from Natalie Iwasa. Is there anyone else here wishing to testify on House Bill 167? If not, questions, members? Question for Mr. Sakuda. Mr. Lyons brings up some serious concerns about what is going to happen with the general contractors having responsibility for making sure everyone's been paid and that it could delay payment. What's your thoughts on that?
I'm not sure if that's actually going to occur. It's one of the concerns that have been discussed. This legislation is going on in other states as well, and that is also one of the concerns in other states. Hawaii has already a section in the lien laws that allows the non-payment of subcontractor wages, or the generals to be held liable for the non-payment of subcontractor wages. So the key here in this bill, we think that's different from what's currently allowed, is it allows other organizations, I believe it was like the Pacific Resource Partnership or other ones, who bring the suit on behalf of the subcontractor rather than, it gives them standing. So that's the difference here. But otherwise, the general is already on the hook through the lien law. So we're just trying to make sure that the bill is cleaned up so that it doesn't punish with punitive damages and whatnot to the general who has no say in, I guess, in how the transaction had occurred between the sub and the labor there.
Okay, so this bill is still a work in progress. Are you comfortable with the language that's in there?
My group had met with them, and the drafts had gone back and forth with the proponents, and this is what they're comfortable with.
Okay. DLIR has requested that amending to insert in the definition of employer that the general contractor, for purposes of wages owed to a subcontractor's employees, shall be deemed the employer for enforcement. Do you have any problem with that?
I would have to ask my guys and get back to you on that.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Any other questions, members? Seeing none, thanks very much. Next, House Bill 16, relating to liquor. Authorizes liquor licensees to sell unopened beer, wine, and prepackaged cocktails with food for pickup, delivery, takeout, or other means to be consumed off premises. Authorizes liquor licensees holding Class 4 retail dealer licenses to deliver purchased liquor to a customer's vehicle. First up, we have testimony with comments from the City and County of Honolulu Liquor Commission and testimony in support from Maui Brewing Company. Mr. Marrero, please proceed.
Aloha, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. We are in support of HB 16. I think we saw during the pandemic the ability to do to-go and delivery was paramount to keeping food and beverage establishments alive. We are in strong support of this bill in that it directly allows, per state law, F&B the ability to deliver and to do to-go beverages, to continue to do to-go beverages, I should say. This is in contrast to HB 16, which I know we're hearing next.
HB 17, which will be next. So you can hold
HB
off.
17, exactly. So just standing on the rest of the testimony, we are in support of HB 16 and that right to go and deliver. Thank you.
Great, thanks. And I'll call you back up for HB 17 when we get to that next. So you can tell us what your thoughts are on that one. Continuing on House Bill 16, testimony in opposition from Hawaii Public Health Institute. Mr. Collins. Nope, I refer you to their testimony. We have testimony in support from the numerous companies: Waikiki Brewing Company, Lanikai Brewing Company, Mahalo Ale Works, Hanakoa Brewing Company, Big Island Brew House, Honolulu Beer Works, Beer Lab Hawaii, and then also testimony in support from Retail Merchants of Hawaii, Maui Chamber of Commerce, and testimony in opposition from Chelsea Gonzalez, and testimony in support from Newton Chu, Vaughn Cook, and testimony in opposition from Johnny May Perry. Is there anyone else here wishing to testify on House Bill 16? 1-6. If not, questions, members? Seeing none, we'll move on. Thank you. On to the last bill of our agenda, House Bill 17, relating to liquor licenses. This authorizes a county liquor commission to allow licensees to sell unopened beer, wine, and prepackaged cocktails with food for pickup, delivery, takeout, and other means to be consumed off premises. You might wonder, didn't we just do that? The previous bill authorizes the liquor licensees to sell unopened beer, wine, and prepackaged cocktails with food for pickup, delivery, takeout, and other means to be consumed off premises. Just authorizes them. they still have to have a dealer license from the Liquor Commission to do that, but it just authorizes them. This bill authorizes the Liquor Commission to allow the licensee to sell that. That's the difference between the two bills. So on House Bill 17, we have testimony with comments from the City and County of Honolulu Liquor Commission, testimony with comments from the County of Kauai Department of Liquor Control, testimony in opposition from Garrett Marrero, Maui Brewing Company. Please proceed.
Hello again. Yes, in opposition here, only because it adds the extra hurdle of authorizing liquor to authorize the licensee. In our case, in our 18-year history here in Hawaii, when a law like this is passed and what we think we're going to be allowed to do, it often takes 2 or more years for the various counties to recognize said state law and actually proceed with authorizing these types of extra permits. It also gives unilateral authority to them to allow, with no real basis in allowing or denying these types of permits. And we see it just fraught for bureaucracy and frankly an extra step that our liquor departments are already so overworked getting the licenses and special permits and such out. That this is just one extra hurdle that I think we proved in the last several years of the pandemic, that this issue of to-go and delivery did not result in any negative practices amongst F&B retailers. So for that reason, we are in opposition, of course, for the right to deliver and have the to-go beverages with food purchase. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And those who may not know, F&B, I would assume mean food and beverage.
Yes, sir. Sorry. Food and beverage establishments, so our local restaurants, our small businesses here in Hawaii that employ our people.
Great, thank you. I'm just always trying to not use jargon or acronyms or whatever. So that's a professional, technical term in your business. I get it. But thank you for...
I just got out of a board meeting. I apologize. Thank you, sir.
That's fine. We all do that. Okay, moving on, we have testimony in opposition from Hawaii Public Health Institute. Testimony in opposition from Waikiki Brewing Company, Lanikai Brewing Company, Mahalo Ale Works, Big Island Brew House, Honolulu Beer Works, Kauai Beer Company, Beer Lab Hawaii. Also testimony in support from Retail Merchants of Hawaii. And testimony in opposition from Maui Chamber of Commerce, Chelsea Gonzalez. Testimony in support from Newton Chu and Vaughn Cook. And testimony in opposition from Johnny May Perry. Is there anyone else here wishing to testify on HB 17? Nope. If there's no one else, members, any questions for our testifiers? If not, thank you very much. Thank you to all the testifiers on all of these measures. We're going to go straight into decision making. Thank you, members, for being here for decision making. Let's move to the top of the agenda. Okay, first up, top of the agenda, House Bill 727. On this measure, I would like to make some amendments. So I'm recommending we move out of House Draft 1. I would like to retain and not repeal paragraphs 3, 4, and 5, but we would keep in the bill a repeal of paragraph 6. What this does is it makes it consistent with House Bill 94, and this has a single referral, and so it'll be able to move out with that one amendment. And we'll make some technical amendments. We have to reorder the numbering. So my recommendation is move it out in HD1, where we would only repeal paragraph 6, which is on page 6 of the bill, and make technical amendments. Questions or concerns, members? Yes, Representative Kong.
I just want to thank you, Chair, because my community, if we did not repeal what you just said, would actually suffer for it instead of, and why make the community suffer? So thank you for for your amendment.
You might explain what you mean by that, because what I did was I chose not to repeal sections 3, 4, and 5, which currently are in the statute, which allow the use of campaign funds when it's not the campaign to make donations to community service, educational, youth, recreational, charitable, scientific, or literary organizations.
Correct. So community service would be one where we do the Lions Club, and we actually spend quite a lot of monies for tools, equipment, even garbage bags. So without them getting these donations from us possibly, it really hurts the projects in the community. And also for the schools themselves, we actually, I don't know if I should say this, but we helped out with the hydroponics at IA Intermediate with funds. And it's a wonderful project for the students, and it works marvelously. Sorry. So any case, certain things wouldn't just be accomplished in our own community if we don't repeal. If we did repeal those amendments. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that explanation. Any other comments, members? If not, a recommendation to move out HD1, in which we would only repeal paragraph 6. And just so everyone knows, that paragraph says that we would no longer, basically, we would repeal the authority to purchase not more than 2 tickets for each event held by another candidate or committee, regardless of whether the event constitutes a fundraiser. So it would basically make it similar to House Bill 94. And we would make some technical amendments. House Draft 1, there be no further questions. Vice Chair for the vote.
Voting on House Bill 727 with amendments. Chair and Vice Chair vote aye. Representative Ganadin excused. Representative Holt.
Aye.
Representative Hashimoto excused. Representative Ichiyama.
Aye.
Representative Ilagan.
Aye.
Representative Kong.
Aye.
Representative Mizuno. Aye. Representative Souza.
Aye.
Chair, your recommendation is adopted.
Thank you. Next, we have House Bill 729. Because we passed House Bill 93, the same bill, 3 weeks ago, it's now in the Senate. I think we won't be redundant, so I would like to defer House Bill 729. Next, House Bill 730. Because we passed the same bill, House Bill 99, 3 weeks ago, and it's now in the Senate, I would like to defer House Bill 730. Next, House Bill 731. Since we passed House Bill 91, the same bill, 3 weeks ago, and is now in the Senate, I would like to defer House Bill 731. Next, House Bill 732. On this bill, we had not passed a very similar bill, House Bill 98, because basically it said if the respondent didn't respond, there was an admission that there was a violation, and that we had due process problems with. This bill is different. It says if you don't respond, then it's a presumption that there is a violation. And Judge Foley said that the presumption is rebuttable. And I just want to make sure that that's clear. So I want to add the word rebuttable to this. So it would be on page 3, line 15, so that it would read, the commission may treat the failure to explain or respond as a rebuttable presumption that a violation has occurred. So with that change, I would like to move it out as an HD1. Questions or concerns, members? If not, Vice Chair for the vote.
Voting on House Bill 732 with amendments, noting the excused absences of Representative Ganadin and Hashimoto. Anyone wishing to vote WR or no? Your recommendation is adopted.
Thank you. And this is the final bill from the Commission to improve standards of conduct. We will miss Judge Foley from our hearings. It's been great to have you here, sir. But it's been, this has been a great exercise for all of us to go through these bills, to really address the community outrage for some misbehavior of our former colleagues. And our effort here is to try to improve the trust of the public in our institution. So, House Bill 733, because we passed the same bill, House Bill 92, and it's now in finance, and because the Senate Bill 197 passed the Judiciary Committee in the Senate, and it's now coming over here. I think there's two other vehicles moving that do the same thing, so I am recommending we defer House Bill 733. Okay, moving on. We have House Bill 995 relating to important agricultural lands. And the next bill, House Bill 996, if you were here or listening during testimony, it was clear that these two bills are linked, and I would like to make sure they both pass. And just to improve the chances for that to happen, what I'd like to do on House Bill 995 is incorporate the language from 996 into that bill and move it out as an HD2. And I would like to make it effective upon its approval. Questions or concerns, members? Is that okay, Chair of Water Land? Okay, I need to get concurrence because she's the chair of the first committee that heard this, and she's okay with it. So my recommendation is move out an HD2, putting the language of 996 into 995 and making it effective upon its approval. Any questions or concerns, members? If not, Vice Chair for the vote.
Voting on House Bill 995 HD1 with further amendments, noting the excused absence of Representative Ganadin. Anyone wishing to vote WR or no? Seeing none, your recommendation is adopted.
Thank you. Because we incorporated House Bill 996 language into 995, I recommend that we defer that measure. Okay. Okay, moving on to House Bill 1091. I would like to ask permission from the Water Land Chair if we could incorporate the recommended amendment from DLNR in their testimony, and that we also would add the words to address the concern from the realtors, that we would add the words "or on state land seaward and adjacent to the parcel," so that it's clear what we're asking them to describe. And if that's okay? Okay, thank you very much, Water and Land Chair. And I would like to include in the Standing Committee report the website addresses that are available. But these are all linked through the county websites. So that is clear in the language. And it is clear that it's when available, because it's not available for Hawaii Island yet. I would also like to put into the Standing Committee report that we're requesting a November 1st start date on this. And because of these changes, I would like to move it out and retain the defective effective date so that we could have another chance to see this later on after it goes to the Senate. That's my recommendation. Members, any questions? If not, Vice Chair for the vote.
Voting on House Bill 1091 HD1 with further amendments, noting the excused absence of Representative Ganadin. Anyone wishing to vote WR or no?
With reservations, thank you.
Reservations noted for Representative Souza. Chair, your recommendation is adopted.
Thank you. Next, House Bill 1159. On this bill, I'd like to move out House Draft 2. I think we're all comfortable with it. I'd like to make it effective upon its approval. Questions or concerns, members? Seeing none, Vice Chair for the vote.
Voting on House Bill 1159 HD1 with amendments, noting the excused absence of Representative Ganadin. Anyone wishing to vote WR or no? Seeing none, your recommendation is adopted.
Thank you. Next, House Bill 676. On this measure, I note the LUC's testimony, which is the same the testimony that had been submitted to the earlier committee. I won't be adopting it because that would already been considered by the earlier committee, but I would like to put into the standing committee report that some of the language that was in the LUC testimony, so that it's clear we are let me pull it up here. Making sure that the due process requirements would need to conform with Chapter 92, the sunshine requirements, because all county councils are required to do that. And I would also say that in the standing committee report that these ordinances would have to incorporate requirements that the public trust doctrine as set forth in various Supreme Court decisions shall be adhered to in the granting or denial of any district boundary amendment. I don't want to put that into the statute, but that's, I think, makes it clear in the standing committee report that that's what we would like. I'm not including Chapter 91 rulemaking and contested case hearings on purpose because I want to see what the counties are going to do to meet that due process requirement. So that is my recommendation. I would like to keep the defective date as this moves forward so that we can continue to have conversation about it. That's my recommendation. Any questions or concerns, members? Okay. Vice Chair for the vote.
Voting on House Bill 676 HD1 passing as is, noting the excused absence of Representative Ganadin. Anyone wishing to vote WR or no? Seeing none, your recommendation is adopted.
Thank you, and thanks to the Housing and Water Land chairs who are on this committee and gave me the thumbs up. Okay, moving on. House Bill 1097. I'd like to adopt the amendments suggested by the Department of Public Safety and thank Mr. Radula for his careful review and corrections there. I would like to make this an HD2 with also some technical amendments and make it effective upon its approval so we can move it forward. Questions or concerns, members? If not, Vice Chair for the vote.
Voting on House Bill 1097 HD1 with further amendments, noting the excused absence of Representative Ganadin. Anyone wishing to vote WR or no? Seeing none, your recommendation is adopted.
Thank you. Moving on to House Bill 167. I'd like to move this forward as an HD2. I would like to adopt the Department of Labor and Industrial Relations amendment. I would urge all the parties to continue the discussion because clearly subcontractors still have some issues with this. I also note for everybody that SB 415 Senate Draft 2 has passed out of both of their Senate committees, which is the same bill, and it'll likely pass the Senate and come over here, so we'll be able to look at it again when it comes over here. So my recommendation is to pass out at HD2 just with the DLIR amendments. We'll keep the effective date. Any questions or concerns, members? If not, Vice Chair for the vote.
Voting on House Bill 167 HD1 with further amendments, noting the excused absence of Representative Ganadin. Anyone wishing to vote WR or no?
With reservations.
Noting the reservations of Representative Kong. Chair, your recommendation is adopted.
Thank you. And next, House Bill 16. On this measure, I would like to move out an HD2 and make it effective upon its approval. Questions or concerns, members? Seeing none, Vice Chair for the vote.
Voting on House Bill HB 16 HD1 with further amendments, noting the excused absence of Representative Ganadin. Anyone wishing to vote WR or no? Seeing none, your recommendation is adopted.
Thank you. Final bill on the agenda, House Bill 17. I don't see why we need to have this additional layer of administration and licensing, and the commission already has to, I mean, each liquor licensee already has to hold a Class 4 retail dealer license by the Liquor Commission. So I think that's sufficient. And so I don't think we need to have House Bill 17. My recommendation is to defer. Okay, there being no further business before this committee, we are adjourned.